Welcome to the Life's Hard, Succeed Anyway podcast, where you will hear transformational stories, positive encouragement, and practical strategies to help you grow your mindset, reach your potential, live your dreams, and experience a purpose-driven, impact-filled life. Here's your host, Alan Blaine.
This is Alan Blaine, and I am fired up to interview our special guest today, Jake Herbert. Let me tell you a little bit about Jake. Jake is a happily married man to his wife, Janelle, and together they have 4 amazing children ranging in age from 10 to 8 months old. Jake identifies himself as a father and a Christian. He's also a real estate investor, a business coach, a self-proclaimed ninja, which I can't wait to hear about that, and a former Olympic wrestler. Yes, you heard me right. Former Olympic wrestler. He's a 9-time U.S. national wrestling champion, 3-time world medalist. You know, wrestling and hard work and his core beliefs of being learning based have taken him to over 36 different countries, competing, meeting with the best of the best, including working with rock stars, celebrities, billionaires, and presidents. And after Jake retired from competitive wrestling and moved his wrestling mat to the business world, he's helped to launch and create 5 different businesses since 2014, as well as coach and consult leaders around the world and their teams. His working time is spent with the Dad Edge Business Mastermind, where he and his team help fathers who are business owners to create extraordinary marriages and epic connections with their kids and families while they continue to scale their business. And that's the order of priorities that's important and intentional. So with that, Jake, I just want to say welcome to the Life's Hard, Succeed Anyway podcast. You ready for this?
I am, Alan. Thank you very much for having me on.
Man, I'm excited. I've given our listeners just a little intro to a little bit of who you are, but if you could take us all the way back and kind of in warp speed, like tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are today, a former Olympic wrestler, world champion, all the things, all the different businesses you're doing. How did you get here?
There's a lot of chapters to that, right? And that's almost 40 years of history that I'll do. The first thing I want to do is it's always so awkward when you have somebody read your bio about you because you never know what to do. I just kind of want to Ricky Bobby it with my hands, but like that sounds amazing, right? I want to hang out with that guy. And it's really funny reading that because I'm like, oh yeah, I did do all that stuff because nobody hears. I didn't, like I said, I know we talked earlier about like the reverse bio. Right, the one of like all my failures and those things, which we will dive into and peel back here because those things have made me who I am, which is great. But yeah, born and raised Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, came from a great family. Mom and dad are still together. My backyard, I ran up the street, was there with my grandma. My grandfather bought a bunch of land. My dad and his brother started developing custom homes. I worked for the family business there, growing up as the machine in the labor force. Me and my cousins and a couple other people in the area. And wrestling was a really big part of my life then, there, and still kind of is. So that's what kind of took me on this big journey of essentially it saved my life. There's a point where I wasn't getting the best grades, wasn't hanging out with the right people. But I had this big goal in wrestling that I wanted to win a state championship. I wanted to, win a national title and get a college scholarship, and succeeded with that. And just continuing to go into the wrestling room and choose the harder path versus the easier and fun path really paid dividends. And it took me to Northwestern University in Chicago and wrestled there from 2003 to 9, and then kind of did so much better in school there just because of the focus and the people that I was around, and which made it fantastic because then when I graduated in 2009, I hit every athlete's dream was after college, they allowed me or gave me the opportunity to basically still stay there, come on as like kind of a coach, just continue to train, don't have to take classes anymore, and get to compete in the sport of wrestling. And in 2009, I was blessed to earn my spot on the world team to make the world finals and take home a silver medal from the world championship at that team. And then from there, it just made sense. 2012 was the next Olympic cycle, and I competed, the 2012 Olympic cycle and through the 2016 Olympic cycle wrestling. And that's kind of then what took me to Ann Arbor, Michigan. I followed my coach there in 2011, made my Olympic team 12 there, and then met this amazing group of guys that we continue to train with and start some companies with. And that's where I'm in today. So now I'm in Birmingham, Michigan at 40 years old, met my wife in 2013. We have 4 kids together, 10, 5, 3, 9 months. They're on the other side of that wall. And so at some point they might come in here. The nanny went home a little bit early today. Um, but it's just been just a huge blessing of being able to go from these chapters of Jake, the high school wrestler in Pittsburgh, Jake, the college wrestler, the Olympic wrestler, and now, Jake, the father, father and businessman. So that's kind of like the chapters that we can start to peel back and dive into as the summary, the highlight.
Yeah. And you've got several businesses going on, right? I mean, you've got your kind of recap that for us or highlight that for us. I'll let you do it. You've got several things going on.
Yeah, too many things going on, right? It's great. So I started a apparel company when I was still training and competing, right? Called Double Leg Ninja. And the one founder of that broke off and started this company called State and Liberty. You guys look up that. They're now in 30 different stores. They're out there everywhere. They do athletic gear for athletes. So that was founded in 2015, and now that is in 30 stores nationwide. I mean, they are Stephen and Lee are crushing it. And I don't do too much with them. I just have a little bit of ownership in it. I do some of the commercials. I'm sure if anybody that puts State and Liberty on, you'll see an ad of me flipping in a suit coming up and around. It's between me and Tim Grover are the two best performing ads that they have there. So that one's doing awesome, but I don't have much day to day in that too. I'm just very, very blessed to be a part of that with Stephen and Lee and just continue to watch them do their success. Then I got into real estate and coaching, right? So I've always done camps and clinics, traveled the world doing that. I'm like the best uncle to ever come into a town, right? Because I'll end up coming into the town and leaving with like 5 or 10 best friends and a big experience, and really looking to motivate, to impact, to change these kids' lives, to get them to think a little bit differently, and kind of leaving them with a set of foundational skills that they can continue to work on and the town can work on. So I love that. I love bringing communities together for that. So I had my coaching and consulting that I go and I do wrestling coaches and camps for, and that then went into I got obsessed with real estate. Right, started buying houses here in Detroit. We've moved up into apartment buildings, so we're still doing real estate investing. We partner with people on different deals, just depending on the deals. So sometimes we're an investor, sometimes we find the deals. So I'm super passionate about continuing to building my portfolio there for our family and for our investors. And then I have my license, so I get to help people and friends around here do that. And then obviously I have the coaching consulting where I do work with a small handful of clients. I keep that really limited just because of my time and my stretch. And everything else that I do day to day is my big chunk of working time is with the Dad Edge boardroom. So we are a group of fathers who are business owners. And all we do is like we sit around, we've created this container of just amazing men that we do life together with, right? Where everybody helps each other as a father, as a business owner, and as people that we want to be the best, have the best relationships with our wives and kids that we can, while continuing to be the best version of ourselves and making sure our businesses are scaling, right? So again, there's a great question out there of, what's the purpose of business? And to me, this answer means everything, right? If you're a business owner and somebody asks you, well, what is the purpose of your business? You're going to hear, oh, to serve my clients, to do this, to do that. The best answer I ever heard, and I continue to keep that with me, is the purpose of owning a business is to fund a perfect life. So you really have to be clear on what is a perfect life and what is the funding that it takes, and then kind of work backwards from that. So that's kind of where I keep that to my heart and to my mind of my business could be ran a lot better. I could be doing way better and all that stuff, but at what cost? What am I willing to sacrifice in order to do that? And what am I not willing to sacrifice?
I love that so much. So what I hear you saying is you view the business as said maybe in different words, but correct me if I'm wrong. You view the business as the vehicle to provide the lifestyle, your ideal lifestyle that you want to live and lead with your family.
Yeah. Yeah. And said it so much better. That's why you're the author and I'm the wrestler, Alan.
No, I don't know about that, Jake, but I'm just repeating back what I think I heard you say. And what is I don't know if I want to say the opposite of that, but what is the trap that you feel like people that aren't entrepreneurs and business owners that aren't executing that in that way, what are they doing?
Yeah. So the business owns them, right? Business owns them or their job owns them. And this is something that I know I've done different, right? If you want to be like everybody else, do what everybody else is doing. And I've never wanted to live my life like that. There's not many Olympians out there. There's not many national champions out there when they say the path is always lonely on the extra mile. And it's true. So I really am obsessed about this quote of you heard this financial freedom, right? The ability to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want. And that is like sovereignty, and that is freedom. And that is something that hits me at my heart. And no pun intended, not my Grinch heart, my normal heart. I know the shirt I'm wearing with the holidays right
Yeah,
there.
for anyone not on YouTube, watching this on YouTube, you'd be able to see on YouTube that he's wearing this great Grinch shirt.
We had the kids' holiday parties today, so I'm still in costume with it. So when I do my weekly planning, right, it's about controlling my time, right? My weekly planning, my year planning. And what most people do is they go, all right, I have work, and I'm going to try to squeeze in my health, squeeze in my kid time, squeeze in my friend, my relationship, everything else around work. That never, quote unquote, pun intended, it didn't work for me, right? I didn't want to live my life that way. So when I look at my calendar, I start with a blank week every week, and I fill in, when am I going to be there for my family, right? When am I going to be there for my kids, with my wife? When are we having together? Not just when am I taking them to school? What am I going to do with them this week? Am I taking them to wrestling practice? We're going to go to a park. Like, where's my family time first? Where's my wife time? Are we going on a date this week? Do we have one-on-one? Where are our friends time? Are we getting together with this? And I kind of lay all that. And then where's my health time? When am I working out? Where it's happening? So then I have this calendar, and I have, all right, family, health, workouts, friends, relationships, all that in there. And then what I do is, I fill in work around those gaps, which is very different. And that takes a different mindset, because it's a lot different when you have just an 8-hour work stretch versus, hey, I'm squeezing in 2 to 3 hour blocks here. And you have to really know what you're working on and be really intentional about the work that you do with the time that you get.
And that's such a great point. I think I always think I love everything you're sharing. I think of the example, and I probably every listener has experienced this, where you're maybe going on a vacation or you're doing something, you have this deadline, right? You're leaving the next morning. It is amazing what can get done. I remember I learned this years ago. It's like it dawned on me one day. I'm like, think about what I got done Friday before I left for 2 weeks on Saturday morning. And then thinking about what about that intention and that focus, if it was executed in, like you're saying, an hour block or a 2 hour block with intentionality throughout our week. It's amazing what can get done. I don't think we realize how much time gets wasted, or how poorly we can use our time, or most people use our time. And I also love that you shared, early on when you were kind of sharing your life story, you said you always chose the harder path. And just a minute ago, you said, okay, you made it your mission. I'm going to choose the harder path. Once you decided I want to be a national champion, and a minute ago, you were saying that basically the right choice is usually the choice nobody else is making, or the minority is making. I don't know how you said that, but I'd love to hear a little more about that, your philosophy of life, just of choosing the harder path, not going the direction of the crowd, and your thoughts behind all that.
Yeah, I don't mind sharing. So to hit the first two, if you haven't, look up Perkins' law, right? All work fills to expand the time allowed. You give yourself 12 days to clean a house. It's going to take you 12 days. You give yourself 12 hours. You'll find a way to get it done in 12 hours, or at least 80% of it. Which
Yep.
is great. So that's step one. Knowing that is so key. And so with knowing that and applying that to my life, it is about choosing the harder path, right? So being a wrestler and where I'm at, I'm the guy that I want to walk into a wrestling room and right away, who is the biggest, toughest, strongest person, the one that can basically beat me up, right? Which is great, because if I'm that person in the room, I'm probably not in the right room. I need to find another room of that to get in there, which becomes a good problem on its own, right? When you operate that. But then what you do is, if you've gone up and you've wrestled and done the biggest, hardest, toughest human being, you battle them, everything else in comparison is going to be easier, right? There's a quote: once you wrestled, everything else in life is easier. And as biased as I am, I really believe it, because having to cut 17 pounds, in a weekend, and then go wrestle the number 2 ranked person in the nation, right? And for those of you who haven't done like a combat sport or something like that, like, you got to understand, it's not like a 6-minute sprint. It's a 6-minute sprint, like, while, in between, laps, you're doing like burpees, like 150 burpees in between. It is every muscle being in your body when you're out there, and imagine all out cardio, muscular war, where you're going to be crawling off dead. So I love that mentality, and have just developed this mindset that the harder things are, the more I hurt, the bigger I smile. And I've just conditioned my mind and my body to love it and to love that. So that, in comparison, it's the same thing with my real estate business. The first house I did was I went and bought a tax auction property in the middle of downtown Detroit for like $1,000, right? That just looked like somebody just blew up and left. And then like there's just been a bunch of homeless people and they're living there for the last like 15 years. And I did the hardest house flip in the world for my first one. And every other one after that has just been so easy in comparison and so easy to manage. So that's where it is. I always just like it's eat the frog and start with the hard stuff. And life's gonna be easy, right? Like put on a rucksack and walk around for a week straight and then take it off and tell me how much easier it is to walk around, right? Like I just
Right.
love that mentality with everything that I do.
I love that. Yeah. There's a saying that along that line that I've heard, if you always do what's easy, life will be hard. If you do what's hard, life will be easy. I've modified it slightly because I don't think life's ever easy, but if you do what's hard, life will be easier, no doubt. It may still be hard to hike that hill without a rucksack, but it's a whole lot easier than when you hiked it with a rucksack, to your point. And I love that. And that's not a mindset that most people have. So I love that you're sharing that. We, by nature, without consciously working on these things, and if we've not been trained to do so, most don't, is we're looking for easy. We want the easy route. We want the easy way. And that doesn't always lead to the best relationships, the healthiest body, the most financially successful. The easy never leads to success in most of those things. So I love that you're sharing that. I mean, has that been the key to your success? I mean, obviously there's multiple keys to success in life. It's not one thing. But if you had to narrow it down to one thing or choose one of the bigger things, what would it be? Like your key to success?
Yeah. And it's so weird because just in purposes, I don't consider myself successful yet, right? My definition of success is, when people are telling me my kids are great people, right? And to take it another step forward, right? Well, my kids are great people, and I met my maker, and he says, well done, good and faithful servant, right? Which is two very different definitions of success. So I know that I'm not going to be able to succeed in the next week. I got years of work ahead of me, which I enjoy, which I'm happy about, right? If you look at it and say, hey, I have years ahead of me, and you don't have like a good outlook on that, like you're probably not doing the right things. It's that for sure, of just finding ways to do hard things so that everything else is easier in comparison, especially to the normal person, because it's a cost, right? You have to pay the price for everything that you do. There's sacrifice that comes with anything and everything that you do. And do you want to pay the cost on the front end, or do you want to pay the cost on the back end? And I'd rather know, hey, how much am I going to pay up front so I know what I have left over on the back to do, versus like, let's live in the moment now and then just suffer later. Like, no, I want to suffer now. And then, that way I can just have those periods of, then once it's hard, then you get those periods of things are easy and you're going to be like, no, now I need to find ways to make it more challenging and put in that manufactured adversity. So that would be the one part of it. And the second part would be just, your programming and your environment, right? So your current mental programming. If you're listening to this podcast right now, or this YouTube talk, like you're out there, you're intentionally programming your mind with something positive, because you could be watching Real Housewives or drama or like crap that just like somebody else is trying to program your mind. Which, Alan, you're looking to do this right now, right? We're all looking to we're trying to program this audience that's listening right now into doing the hard things and succeeding, because we selfishly want more of you guys in this world, because then there's more of us to just continue to raise the tide and raise all ships. So again, then that goes in the second part, is who you're surrounding yourself with, right? What's your environment, who you're around, where you're being. So that would be the big things. It's relationships with my success, because I couldn't get to where I am without all those relationships, right? Which I think one of the key relationships is ourself, right? A relationship with ourselves, and that aspect. There's a quote that was said is you're rarely going to have relationships healthier than your self-esteem. So you need to know like your self-worth in that thing. And I really like the way that was like kind of put, because if you don't have high self-esteem or high self-worth, I guarantee you that's a reflection of a lot of your relationships as well.
So good, Jake. Lot of good wisdom you're dropping here, man. Practical, helpful things for those of us that want to level up our success in every area of life, our health, our relationships, spiritually, financially, all the things. And I love that, we're all of the same heartbeat, that success in one area at the sacrifice of our health or our marriage or our children is not true success. And I loved your definitions of success very, very much. It's easy to think people that have had such success. I mean, it's hard to even imagine being the level of elite athlete that you are and being an Olympian, and even an Olympian of any sport, sure, but an Olympian in one of the toughest sports on the planet, in my opinion, wrestling, for so many reasons. I say that. Just tons of success financially, success in your business, success in your health, your marriage, your parenting, all the things. By the way, love the idea of your success being, what is your children's children? How are they, the legacy essentially you left in them? how that your life is affecting them and impacting them today, generations to come. I remember hearing about the Iroquois Indians and how they would judge every decision they made based on how is this not just going to affect our generation or even our, children or children's children, but how is it going to affect the generation 7 generations down? And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. But it's easy to think that people like you, we can look at you and go, man, you've had so much success. You're continuing to have success. Like life just must be easy. I know your parents have been married for 50 some years. You came from a great home. I mean, of course you're having success, Jake. I mean, but that's just limiting beliefs. It's excuses. It's victim mindset. It's stinking thinking. Can you share with us like what one or more of some of the challenges that you've had to face moving through all the success that you've had?
Yeah, so we can get into that, which is great. This is like the anti-bio, right? You heard that beautiful bio at the beginning, but man, I've had a lot of failures. I never won a national title until I was 19. So I failed at winning a national title, I think 7 or 8 times before I ever, got my first true one. And only a one-time state champion in high school. It was always good. It was always up there, sixth, third, second before in placing, but it's not there. I've had my first daughter was out of wedlock, right? So wasn't married. My ex-girlfriend at the time, wasn't even dating her, pregnant. So became a father. That was and is still has a challenge, right, of co-parenting and what that's like there. I've had 2 or 3 businesses go under, probably 3 that have shut down that haven't made it there before. I had some problems and a little bit of problems in college, right? Got in a little bit of trouble here or there, and just had some good learning lessons throughout that. So I messed up a lot, right? Injuries and setbacks. I mean, I've had three, two surgeries. So on all my joints. So that's 5, 10 surgeries at this point
Wow.
in time. So every single one of those, and my first surgery being a major one of ACL repair before I even started my college career. So I didn't even know, hey, am I going to keep my scholarship? Am I going to ever be able to wrestle again? Back in 2003, before that happened. So there's just a ton of different like setbacks. Even like today, like I mean, I had a big failure in fatherhood yesterday, right, with a 5.5-year-old who, after like 35 times of asking him to do some things and calm down, and finally when we're at the barbershop and he takes the water gun and sprays it everywhere, Alan. I mean,
Oh, wow.
sprayed it everywhere after like 10 times of telling him to put it down and not listen, and being like, you're in public and nice and respectful, to losing my crap on him in the car there, right? In the car ride home, right? So like I'm still failing, but there's a great thing that Larry Hager was saying from the Dad Edge and the Good Dad Project, was saying that it's every relationship you're going to have that. And where it's really made is in the repair. That's the mortar. That's the cement that holds the bricks in the relationship together, is how you follow up after that stuff when you fall down, right? Because every successful person has fallen down. I think the difference of success is how long are you down for. I know the same way, Alan. Like, you've got knocked down 30, 40, 50, 80 times. You get knocked down 9 times, you get up 10. You get knocked down 100 times, you get up 101. It's how long am I down for, and how long is that bounce back effect, so I can get up there mentally and physically. Yesterday was hard. Yesterday, after starting my day yelling at my kid like that, it took me a good 3 to 4 hours to mentally come back from that realm and get back to things, right? And it's just challenging, just being real.
Yeah. I love that you're being real, because the reality is we all have our challenges and we all have our failures or our learning opportunities. And I love what you said. I mean, it's not that successful people don't fail, and it's not that successful people don't get knocked down, lose their patience, do all the things in anything, but it's how we respond to it. It's how fast we get back up, how fast we get our head in the game, how fast we can humble ourselves, how fast we can apologize, how fast we can make it right within everything within our ability to do so, and keep moving and not lay there. Because I think that's what I see so often is someone gets punched in the face, figuratively speaking, in some way in life, and they just lay there for way too long and lose valuable time. So
they get up, Alan, and they start looking for like that blame, and they're like, oh, it's somebody else, or they're not taking ownership of it. Like, hey, you got punched in the face for a reason. Like, very rarely are you going to be walking down the street and somebody's just going to clock you for no reason at all. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, because that does happen, but very rarely is that. And even at that point, right, like, ownership and blame, like, yeah, that just sucks, and that's just part of life, right? It
Yeah,
happens from time to time. Bad things happen. So it's like, how do you respond to it is completely in your control. And going
absolutely.
to blame and, not taking accountability is never, never anything that's gonna really help you to, like you said, take ownership of it to be able to move forward or to move forward, with or without it. Rather, you're gonna bring it along with you or not.
Absolutely. Hey, I've got a question for you, Jake. You're the perfect guy to ask this. I mean, I say this because I don't really know of, I'm not sure who I know personally that could be more mentally tough than you, only because I know what you've accomplished and I know what I think I know what it takes to do what you've done, even though I truly don't know because I haven't walked in your shoes. But I can imagine I feel like I got a pretty good idea. Okay. What I know about wrestling, what I know about the Olympics, what I know about life. So when we're like going through a tough time, and you mentioned several of them, you've mentioned several just a minute ago when I asked you what are some of the challenges you've been through on this journey of life and success along the way, we start having these negative voices in our head. And there's good reason why the scripture, the Bible, and a lot of other personal development books that have taken those principles and communicate them maybe in different words say we got to take our thoughts captive, right? We got to renew our mind. We got to control what happens in these 6 inches between our ears. And I'm thinking, who better to ask than you? I mean, you obviously have been able to. I'm not saying you're perfect at it because I know you're a man, so you can't be perfect, but mastered those kind of areas. So, what advice would you give to someone to get through those negative voices in your head when you're in those dark times, those challenging times, when you just got knocked down and there's voices that aren't serving you well? Like, what is your advice to the person or to yourself in that situation, even maybe going through some of those tough things?
Yeah. So one thing that I do is I call the success hotline every single day. If you don't know what that is, you just Google success hotline, Dr. Rob Gilbert. The guy has been doing it for 32 years. Every day. He's never, and all he does, it's just a voicemail. You just call it, you go right to his voicemail box. It's not an 800 number, no cost to it. It's like a 973, blah, blah. Hi, you've reached Dr. Gilbert, Success Hotline, message number 34,617. I think it was something like that today's. He says this all the time: talk to yourself more than you listen to yourself. Talk to yourself more than you listen to yourself.
Good.
And that's the number one thing. And you have to be intentional about it, right? Because I will sit there before my matches and I'll start pacing and I'll start saying, I'm going to start talking to myself. And I've had people be like, hey, you look like you're insane. Talking to yourself. I go, yeah, that's fine. Look like I'm saying I'm number one seed. I'm winning these tournaments because I'm talking myself up. I'm telling myself, this guy doesn't want it more than me. This guy didn't work harder than I did. This guy didn't sacrifice more than I did. He didn't go through bloody noses and shoulder surgeries, and he didn't cut 15 pounds, and he didn't miss this thing or that thing. Like, he's out there trying to take this match from me. And I'm talking to myself, pumping myself up, saying this, and I could literally, just because it's my hairs on my back of my neck are starting to stand up. My blood pressure, I'm getting ready to compete, because that's the saying that I would say, like, as I'm about to step out on the mat and I'm looking at my opponent, and I go from like, I'm the nicest guy in the world, Alan. You know it. Like, I'll take you out. Like, I'm super kind.
Easy going.
Yeah, like I fun, good, goofy, like to have a good time. But then when
Yep.
it's wrestling match on the line, it is a different human being. I am going to out there and do whatever I can until you win, because you're trying to take that national title from me, which is trying to feed my family. So you're essentially attacking my family. And that's the mindset that I would shift when I was out there. And so talk to yourself. You have to be intentional about, what are you saying? What are your affirmations? Right? What are you grateful for? And you got to say them out loud to yourself. You got to find those times of prayer, of talking, of writing, of whatever that is, of programming that to yourself in those times. And that you can control, right? We can't control our first thought. And not saying I don't have bad thoughts, but we can't control our first thought, but I control my second and my third. So I am
Yep.
literally every day, let's just say, putting in 150 units of positive talk, a positive self, a positive thing, rather it be an audiobook, a conversation like this, my men's group at the Dad Edge. I'm constantly doing that. So even those 4 or 5 units of negative things that will come up, they're bombarded every single day. And when you've done that for 30 some years, right, of positive self-talk, like they have that Indian legend of, like, feeding the two wolves. You have like the wolf of like fear and doubt and anxiety, and the wolf of like success and bravery and gratitude. And like, the Indian goes, well, which wolf wins the fight? It's the one you feed more. So my positive wolf is a freaking incredible Hulk right now. And my negative wolf, not to say he doesn't pop up from time to time, but he's he's like a 4-year-old child at this point. So not to say that 4-year-old child doesn't get terrible. Like I have one
Yeah.
over here, like they get up there from time to time that not even the Hulk can take on. But I'm just really intentional about that, and then about like the environment and people around me affirming what it is. So I hope that helps, right, and leads to a little bit of clues of that mental toughness. And then my favorite quote is like, "You want to get tough." I love this. You can ask any of my kids. I wish one of them would run through this door right now. I'd be like, "Hey, how do you get tough?" And they'd say right away, "By doing tough things." Like it's as simple as that. You want to get tough, you do tough things, and you just eventually build that zone of toughness up. And yeah, I look at people and I say, like, literally, it's weird when I talk to them, because I've been in a cage with John Jones, with Ben Askren, with Kumar Usam, with who was the UFC champion of the world. That was my easy day in the wrestling room in practice, was grabbing the UFC champion now and just beating. I mean, it's wrestling; it's a different sport. He wasn't punching me, he wasn't striking me, he wasn't trying to break my arms, but just like still was physically manhandling him and breaking him and other people of that category every day. So when I say, like, there was a point in time in 2009 through 2016 where maybe there's 1,000 people on Earth in a hand-to-hand combat that would actually be able to take me. And those 1,000 people that would win, they're not winning 10 out of 10 times. Maybe there's 50 or 100 that would win 10 out of 10 times, but they're going to be hurting. They're walking away. Like, John Jones isn't going to be looking at me and be like, "Hey, I want an easy lunch, I'm going to take him." Like, "John, you're going to beat me, but you're going to hurt. And so it better be worth it." Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, so it's just, when you have that mentality, now it's like, all right, great, I've overcompensated that. So what is there that I can't do, that I don't, if I put my mind to something and my focus and my energy in it, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
I love it. And would you say the application translates over equal, just as well to, say, business? For our listeners, they're like, "Well, I'm 40 years old," or however old. Are you 40 now? Is that what you said?
No, I'm 38. I'll be 40 in 462 days. So I write that down.
Okay. So I didn't think you were anywhere near 40, but I thought I heard you say something about 40 earlier. So, okay. So 38. But our listeners that are 38, they're like, "I'm never going to be in the UFC fighting Johnny Bones Jones. And I'm not going to be wrestling on a mat going for the U.S. Olympic team." But do these same principles apply to life and business in every other way, personally?
They do. A lot of them transfer over very well, and some of them don't, right? Like, some of them, like, you don't always need more intensity, right? It's not always the smartest thing sometimes in the business world, is intensity. And like, you don't always have to just grind it out and make it like really hard. There's smarter ways of going about it. And I'm just saying, that's just for me what it is, right? Like, now I can just go into a jiu-jitsu gym and get a good workout in. But if you find that group of men, of somebody that's, I call this the plus equal negative, like, theory, right? And we had this on the wrestling mat, but in life, in all aspects. So take wrestling, take your health, take your relationship with God, take your business, take all those important, like those 5 to 7 important buckets that you have in your world, and you look for, and you write them down on a piece of paper, and then put 3 lines: positive, equal, negative. You need 3 partners. If I want to become a national champion wrestling, I need somebody who is way better than me, somebody that can just beat the crap out of me that I can learn from, right? I need that coach, that mentor, right? I need that as a father. I need that in all my areas of life. Then I also need an equal. I need somebody who, like, we're together, that if I'm not showing up on, ready to go, like spot on ready on this, like, he's going to get the better of me. And if he shows up like that, I'm going to get the better of him. So it's like, he's getting better, I'm getting better.
Yeah.
And then you need that negative, right? That's somebody that I can, like, teach to, that easy day of practice when I'm really sore and I really want to work this new move or this technique. So I'm going to grab, a joke. I love the joke that me was the UFC champion and just get to work my easy stuff on him. No, but you just grab that, like, younger kid that's not at that level yet, that you got to bring up along through. And if you have those people, somebody that's better, the same and a little bit worse, that you can teach and go to, you're going to be successful in whatever that realm is going to be eventually.
Yeah. I love that. Great advice. If you could go back in time, Jake, I know at 38 years old, you've done a lot already and learned a ton and you're full of wisdom. I'm sure we could talk for 3 hours, which we won't. And this podcast would just be incredible, full of valuable tips. But if you could go back in time and just give one piece of advice to your younger self, Have you ever thought about like what that one piece of advice would be if you had to limit it to one?
Yeah, I thought about it because it's like so many times, right? Like so many people think like, go back to my younger self, and be like, hey, buy Bitcoin early, like,
Right. Yeah.
like buy more real estate. I thought about this, like, I would just want to tell myself to just believe in yourself more and just put more trust and ownership in yourself more is what it is. But I also come to the conclusion that I wouldn't want to do that. Like for so much fear of I wouldn't end up exactly where I'm at. Not to say I couldn't be in a better spot, but if I went back and gave myself, like, I'm really grateful at this point for not winning an Olympic gold medal. Because if I did win that Olympic gold medal, I don't think I would have met my wife and married who I am and have my kids and my family, right? I think that having that Olympic gold medal might have made me pass her up, right? Or just like not value the relationship as much of where I'm at. So I really believe everything happens for a reason, and God has plans for us. And that's probably one of the hardest things. Like if you look at my results from there, it's a lot of controversial scoring, right? So in reality, right, there were 6 or 7 refs working with each other in a pool, and I got screwed, right? I didn't win the match. I was winning against the guy I was 2-0 against going into that Olympics, and he won an Olympic gold medal. I lost to him right there in the quarters, and then I fall down, and to go to the match to get bronze. I don't even get that either because of another refereeing call. So it sucks. But if one of the worst things that ever happens to me in my life is not winning an Olympic gold medal, like what the hell am I complaining about, right? Like it sucks. I
Right.
put so much into it, but I love where I'm at, and I wouldn't want to do anything to disrupt that. So if I had the ability to go back in time and do it again, I wouldn't want to for fear of messing this up, right? And I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm just too happy with where I'm at. Like I'm grateful, yet I'm not satisfied. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I'm glad that God knows the perfect plan for our life
Thank
and
God,
that we
right?
can walk in that and that we can trust him with that because we don't always know what's going to be best for us. Like you said, you and I have no way of knowing had our life took a different turn, gold medal, let's say in the Olympics or whatever the things are, what other ripple effects that changes, who knows? And even the fact that you're accepting that even more lends proof to the fact that back to the analogy of the positive dog and the negative dog, you're feeding the positive dog enough because it'd be really easy to go feed that negative dog of the ref this and the ref that, and just think where you'd be today, mentally, emotionally, relationally. Like that would not serve you well, any of us well, right? So I love your mindset. And yeah, you're the most easygoing, chill, nicest. I'll just say you're in that category, nicest guys I've ever met. And I'm glad we met. In fact, we met through the Dad Edge podcast and the Dad Edge Summit in October in St. Louis. And I'm glad our paths crossed. It's been awesome.
Can I stop you because I want to give you some praise because I've been doing my AM routine shifted because of you, the way that you structure your prayer in that morning, right? Because I would always wake up and start with gratitude. And now it's exactly it is. I give gratitude to God for what I have and everything. Then I pray to him for to help and be with other people. And then I ask him directly, what I need for myself. And that is straight from from being and connecting with you. So I just wanted to give you praise about that too, and just let you know how much of an impact. Because now when I do that, I also think of Alan Lane every single time, like every single morning. That's on my mind. So it's linked there, and you have that mind shift. So I just want to really thank you for that. That's been a huge part of taking me to another level that I didn't know I could get to. I appreciate it.
I love it, Jake. Thank you for saying that. And what's so cool about reflecting on that is you mentioned a little bit ago some tips, some great tips. And one of them was the people you surround yourself with. You remember mentioned that 5 or 10 minutes ago. You talked about that. And I was having my own morning routine, quiet time, Bible time that didn't look exactly like what I shared with you at that summit that day in the journaling and the way I do all that and start off with the gratitude and the journal and all that. And it was through my Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind that I'm a part of that somebody in there shared this way of going about it in the morning that I adopted and implemented and liked so much. I shared it with you. So, I mean, it's just more evidence to the fact that, the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun, but at the same time, being around people and hearing different things, different perceptions, different ideas, they're game changers so often of the time. I'm glad we don't have to live in a bubble. And I feel sorry for those that do. and are trying to go through this life thinking they can do it all on their own. That they're smart enough and wise enough. And I guess that was me for many years too. So I get it, but it's not wisdom. That's for sure.
None of us are smarter than all of us, man. And if you're
No.
not, and I'll do that now. If you're listening to this and you're not part of a tribe or something like that, like, stop, go find one, right? Like and it doesn't have to be there in a person. It can be local. It can be something as small as like a church group that you join or something there. But if you don't have what you're looking for, either start it or go find one. And that's kind of how we met and how I ended up in this realm and space, because I look at my whole life, high school, going into a wrestling room to be the best in the nation, right? With some of the best kids in the nation. Like, I'm there with kids that go off to college and everything like this. I mean, I had two six of our Olympic team was from my area. So that's like 1/3. I'm very decent at math.
Yeah. 1/3.
Yeah. So, and then I go in the college room and I have these kids that are either, Northwestern University. Those are smart kids. So I have like several friends build huge companies that are so much more intelligent than I'll ever be. And we had this awesome, wrestling community, but I'm in a room with a group of men every day looking to be the best of themselves. And then you go to the guys that's training with the Olympics, the same thing. These guys want to be the best in the world, and that spills over into other categories. And then when I retired in 2016, I didn't have it. I spent about a year or two just lost trying to figure it out, and found the dad edge and joined the podcast, and kind of like jumped in and just found my new tribe of Olympic guys to do life with. So I just can't tell you like how important that is to have, of just looking at these different perspectives, because sometimes we're so in on the weeds, we're like this, that we don't get to see the 30,000 view overview. And then somebody like Alan's like, well, hey, I've been doing it this way. And I'm like, oh my God, that just, I thought I had this perfect, and you just, here's a way to just improve it just a little bit. That's all you need. That tweak of 1 degree done over thousands of miles, you're in a completely different place. So I love that. That's what I love about the world and life and where we're at.
I'm glad you said that. Super valuable. Everyone needs to be a part of a tribe and have people that are building them up and seeing their blind spots. They're called blind spots for a reason, and just so many things we could go into on that. But hey, I wanted to ask, like, what is maybe one success quote that you would be willing to share? And I don't know if it's the same one you shared a minute ago about doing what you want, when you want, with who you want, but maybe it's that or something different. Do you have a success quote that you love?
I have 2 mantras that I continue to do. And I just did this one at Beat the Streets, right? So the 2 that I link together, it's normal people practice until they get it right. Champions practice until they can't get it wrong.
Oh,
right. We are a master, like we are a reputation. I love that one. And then I link that one with the Champions Creed. And I'll run around the house saying this, that I'm not judged on the number of times I fail. I'm judged on the number of times I succeed. And the number of times I succeed is directly related to the number of times I fail and I keep going. So when I link those 2 together, like that's where
good.
it is. Like, those 2. And then I'm a quote machine, Alan. Like, if you guys ever want to see it, like, I have a note on my phone that anytime I hear a good quote, I take it and I put it in there. So I have about probably like 350 quotes. But I hate losing more than you love winning. That was a great one for like the wrestling mats. There are just so many. I actually did this challenge with Dr. Gilbert where, you go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way through Z. And then you put a positive quote for every single letter, and then you memorize it. And then it changes your core beliefs, your limiting belief, your programming. You want to talk about the best hour you can invest in yourself. Take a piece of paper, write A through Z, and go find the best quotes and then memorize it. Make flashcards until you can just spit them all out. All work expands to fill the time allowed, be to have. Because of this, something good will happen. And you just program that. And then all of a sudden I'm running through, and my mind is always finding ways that I see something happen, and I tie it to one of those positive quotes, and it just continues to affirm that. And so I am a quote machine. I love positive quotes, and we'll go into a quote off with anybody about that, because that's just all programming, right? That is all programming. Change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
So good, man. We might have to have you come back on here one of these days, Jake, and just have a quote off. That would be awesome.
As long as you're not making me spell them out. That's one of my weaknesses.
You don't have to spell. You don't have to spell. We could just let you just go to town on quotes, and people could just play it on loop on their drive. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, it'd be awesome. That's what that's what I do. And I program kids constantly. We did that in the Beat the Streets clinic 2 days ago. just every time getting to do normal people practice until what? They get it right. Champions practice until I can't get it wrong. Who am I? I'm a champion, right? And then just boom, these kids hearing this over and over and over. Once they hear this hundreds and hundreds and thousands of times, they're going to start to believe that. And we have that
100%.
opportunity of every time we interact with our kids and our children, we are programming them. So I'm really, really intentional about that for my kids. And it's great.
So good. So good. What is one of the best habits, would you say, that has helped you in your success? Just in some rapid fire questions here as we wrap this up.
Drinking water, right? This is my small water jug. Normally I have my big gallon, but I'm very good at leaving them. I think it's in my office. I have 3 more coming for Christmas, so I'm not allowed to buy any more at this point. So I'm just using little ones, but drinking water, it was such a big habit. And then breathing, there's this 478 by Dr. Weil, I believe, from Harvard. He was the Harvard Medical Journal and said that out of all the things that he published in 20 years, that 4 seconds in, hold for 7, and then out for 8, doing that 8 times through, that is like taking a cheating health supplement, right? Any one that you have or that you take on there too, just pausing and taking that breath work. Those 2 habits, and then my physical health, right? My physical health and my programming, like gratitude is one I've been doing for 10 years now. That is one of practicing that habit too. So I'd say like those are my must. Like no day goes by that I'm not drinking a gallon of water, that I'm not doing my breathing, that I'm not doing my gratitude. And then the one that I've really like recently figured out is leading with love, right? Because it just conquers all. And I'm programming that in my kids' mind every time we watch a movie and then the good guy wins. I'm just constantly screaming, "Love wins!" And they're screaming the same thing, because it's just when you lead with love and you take that out there, there's no, especially when you're coming from a place of love, like it's impossible to beat. It is like the best superpower, the best thing out there when you just come from that place. So those are I just rapid fire answers. That helps.
Dude, I love it. That's some awesome answers. What is one of the best pieces of advice that you've ever received, Jake?
Don't take life too seriously. We're never getting out of here alive. So I always have fun. I mean, even in like the suffering, I mean, I would, I don't think I'd ever get through BUDS or Hell Camp or anything in the Navy SEALs, because I like to have too much fun and joke. Even when things are the hardest and at the most inappropriate time, that's where I like to be able to crack a smile. I mean, if you can't laugh at yourself, I mean, come on, this is, I mean, we're not here for a long time, and death and taxes, right? Everybody's going to be in the same position in 100 days. So why not enjoy it? Why not find more time for laughter and joy? So I love that one.
Not only that, it makes it more enjoyable for everybody around you. So I like that. I like that tip. When you think about the future, what is exciting you currently?
Gosh, right now it's just I love where I'm at. Like I'm in a place in my life that I don't need to do too much different, right? Just little tweaks here and there of being 1 degree left or right. But the things that really excite me is just watching my kids grow and knowing that I have the body and the physical health to get to enjoy the things with them, right? To go out there on the runs with them, to go out there and exploring, to have the bandwidth to be in the wrestling room with them, to be on the mat, to do certain things, to be able to wear a grid shirt and take off a Thursday and just go into their school for their holiday parties, right? Like I'm super blessed about that stuff.
Absolutely. I love it. What is the best way for our listeners to connect with you, Jake, and follow along on your journey?
Basically, shoot me an email, jake.herbert1@gmail.com. I always email people back. I love checking that too. And I have a lot of accountability groups, but the other way, day to day, if you want to find me regularly, it's joining me with the Dad Edge, the business boardroom mastermind. That's predominantly where I put about 20 hours of my time and my group, my tribe, that I do the most with. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, but I don't have anything that like I really sell on there or do too much on that. So, but you can follow along. I look to produce, not consume from those aspects of it. And I'm just on there so that like I have a big following of people that want to see my kids and things from time to time. So it's just a good way to kind of follow along in their life, but just engage with me. You'll become better.
I love it. So we'll drop in the show notes the email address, the info on the Dad Edge boardroom, and your Instagram and Facebook. So you all can find that there. And I'm going to give you, this has been awesome, man. I'm going to give you the closing comment. Any closing words you might want to share with our Life's Hard, Succeed Anyway listeners?
Yeah, just the challenge, right? Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better, right? That's not just a mantra that I say, that's a core belief. So I want to challenge you that to say that, to write it down, and to think about, well, what are you going to do, right? By hearing that and saying that, what am I going to do that's going to be a little challenging so I can get better today? And don't focus on, hey, I got to change everything. How do I improve just 1%? Right, one little increment. That would be my challenge, my ending quote for people here, and to connect, right? To take the shot. Where you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky / Michael Scott, right? Like,
Yep.
like go for it. So yeah, I just very honored to be here, to have people listen. I just hope that this help people, is going to help people to take action and help them level up.
Appreciate it, Jake. This has been awesome, man. Thank you so much, brother, for making time to come on here.
My honor, Alan. Thank you.
If you love this podcast, grab some of Alan's free resources on his website at alanblain.com, spelled ALLANBLAIN.com. You can also find links to Alan's Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok there in his contacts page. Lastly, if you can leave a 5-star review for us on your favorite podcast app, that will get these messages out to more people, and it will really mean the world to us. Thanks in advance, and make it a great day.